Welcome to the Shock Your Potential podcast with your host, Michael Sherlock. We all have potential, but sometimes we need inspiration to get us to our peak performance. Whether you are starting out in your career, ready to move up the corporate ladder, or taking the leap into entrepreneurship, Michael's guests provide powerful tools and resources to shock your potential. Shock Your Potential is a global professional development training company committed to your unique journey. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com. Listen in to today's expert.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Shock Your Potential. And you know, all month long, we are talking about money matters, or the fact that money does matter, and we better do something good with it in order to help ourselves. And my guest today is Murs Tariq. He's a certified financial planner, and he's a partner at a place called Peace of Mind Wealth Management. And I had to say that specifically because I just think that sounds such, not only like a great name, but it just tells you what you're trying to achieve there. He has over a decade of expertise in retirement planning, and he's dedicated to helping his clients pursue their ideal retirement. He's an author and co-host of the Secure Your Retirement podcast show, and he speaks on investing with risk management, income planning, tax planning, both for and during retirement. He's a first-generation American, and Murs was brought up with a different perspective on the value of a dollar and something that we can all take some lessons on, the importance of proper budgeting, saving, and overall financial planning. And it's this upbringing that led him to a finance degree from North Carolina State University, and eventually finding his passion in shaping the financial future of others, specifically those that he works with. So joining me today is Murs Tariq. Thank you for joining us.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. That was one incredible overview of myself. So thank you for those kind words.
Isn't it funny to sit there and listen while somebody's reading your bio and you're like, wow, that sounds pretty impressive. I must be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I guess I did all that stuff. I do that stuff right now. Yeah.
I like to have fun with it. Well, I did hit some of the highlights. Tell us a little bit more about you and your business and how you help your clients to shock their potential.
Yeah. So our business, our practice, it's funny you said it in the little intro, peace of mind, wealth management. That is our goal. And so when we did a rebrand not too long ago, we were trying to come up with different names as to what would work for the company. And we said, well, why don't we just do what we strive to do? Why don't we call ourselves what we strive to achieve for all of our clients, which is peace of mind, wealth management, specifically in retirement. So the way that we work is our ideal client, and the reason it's ideal is what we have done is we have built so many different things and so many different tools and assets around that person that is close to or already in retirement. So we don't work too well with the younger crowd, like the 20s and 30s just starting out. We can help in that world. I'm obviously in the younger age group, so I am happy to talk to any of that person or demographic, but everything that we have designed, everything that we have come up with is really catered to that person that is getting close to that, pulling the trigger of saying, hey, I'm almost there, I'm ready for retirement, or somebody that's already in retirement. And so we do quite a few different things. We really focus our practice in four different categories. The first is basically investment management, money management. We have a little bit different philosophy in that area, and we may talk about that today. The second thing that we do, and it's just as important as number one, is we build retirement income plans for all of our clients. The third is tax management, and then the fourth is estate planning. So we find those four to be very key to having any type of successful retirement. And then there's a lot of little things that come up under those, like long-term care insurance or social security advice, everything like that. So we like to look at ourselves as a holistic financial planner. And so, if we don't have an answer, we're going to find it for you. But we think we know quite a bit when it comes to planning for retirement.
When you have somebody, you meet your ideal client, let's say, you just end up visiting with them, in one of those days when we're back to, networking and actually talking to people face to face without masks on. And you're, talking to them about where they are, and they are really close to retirement. What kind of thoughts are going through their head? What kind of fears or anxieties do they have about that last step, actually walking away from the every other week paycheck and really taking that leap of faith, of something that they've been building on for so long to say, okay, I'm ready to go in retirement. What are they feeling at that time?
Yeah, they are definitely feeling nervous. Um,
Mhm.
and the question that always comes up, always, no matter who is sitting in front of us, is, do we have enough? Have we saved
Mhm.
enough? Have we done a good enough job? Because it's exactly what you just said. You live your life for so long, putting money into these various retirement accounts. You're getting your paychecks, and you're just you're doing what you're supposed to do. But then at some point, you have to transition from this accumulation phase to this wealth preservation retirement type of phase, and it
Mhm.
is very difficult to do emotionally and actually to do it. Because you're used to the paycheck coming in from someone else, and now all of a sudden you have to provide your own paycheck for 20, 30, 40 years for the rest of your life. And so the question always comes up, do I have enough? Have I done a good job? And so we try. There's a lot of different ways that we answer that question, but it doesn't matter if it's someone that has a couple 100,000 or a few million saved for retirement. The question is always, do I have enough?
Yeah, and I think about that too, because it's whenever we meet with our financial planner, and you've got the company we work with has a nifty little tool, and they show you the little speedometer, and do you have enough gas in the tank, kind of thing. And I like that kind of stuff just because I'm a visual person like that. But in the back of my head, I'm still like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. I don't have full faith in this, because I think that has got to be, we're getting closer. I'm 52. I mean, we're not that close because, who knows how long we're going to work or run my business. But, as we get within 15 years, 10 years, 15 years, all of a sudden there are these real true questions and little fears that are starting to creep up that make you not know really, whether you can, but also where to turn.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I would say 10 to 15 years is a perfect time to really start honing in on everything. Cause, at the beginning, I think planning for retirement at the beginning, when you get that first job fresh out of college or whatever, you don't need to do a lot. You just need to make sure that you are saving. Well, you get down the line some and you're in your late 40s, early 50s, and you invest some money in these different types of accounts. Well, then you got to start thinking about, hey, like this account balance is going up. I need to start making sure that I'm monitoring it, paying attention to it, uh,
Mhm.
and making sure that things are structured properly so that I can actually retire when the time comes. So that there's a lot to start thinking about once you're in your 50s. Um, in order to feel comfortable going into that. And I would say the more you think about then, the easier the transition is once you actually do decide to pull that trigger at 62, 65, 70, whatever it is.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and I think, yeah, I mean, we're talking about it a lot, especially because we're in the initial stages of some estate planning too with my husband and I. But I keep thinking, all these other elements that are creeping in. I mean, you kind of alluded to long-term care insurance, which I used to actually work in the long-term care market. Like I worked with nursing homes. So it's always been something that's kind of fascinated me. But, even thinking about, healthcare and the costs of healthcare and how to anticipate those things, so many of them are unknowns. We know what there is today, but you don't know what it's going to look like in 10, 15 years. And you don't know if you're going to need a substantial amount of that, or, if you're going to keep being healthy. I mean, like we have a lot of money in our flexible savings account that we don't use because we hardly ever go to the doctor, hardly ever have anything wrong. But you definitely don't want it to not be there
Mhm.
if you need it.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a lot of things to navigate with people when they first come and sit down with you. Are they overwhelmed by the number of things that they, should be thinking about?
Yeah, I would say so. And sometimes the question is, what questions haven't I asked that I should be asking? And so a big part of what we do is we try to educate. So on our podcast, we're always trying to educate on different various topics. And it's really, we get those topics from people that sit across from us and ask us that question. If
Mhm.
people ask us enough, well, enough people are asking for us to actually talk about it. So we are all about educating and trying to make sure you're thinking about all the different facets, because it's not just save money and kind of hope you have enough to get through retirement. It's, well, save money, yes, but then you also have to hone in on your spending plan, which is equally as important as how much money you've saved. And then you have to hone in on, how much risk do you want to transfer? So long-term care insurance. We have some clients that say, no, I think I'll be okay. I've got a decent amount of money and I've got good health history from my family. I'm not too worried. And so I'm okay taking the risk of self-insuring. I know that's going to deplete my assets if I go into that situation, but I'm okay with taking that risk. And we have others that say, no, I don't want to take that risk at all. I want to transfer as much of it to the insurance company as I can, just for pure comfort. So, thinking about that, and then also thinking about the overall investment plan. How much risk in the markets are we willing to take, or how are we going to structure income for the rest of our lives? So yeah, it's definitely an overwhelming conversation at times, but at the end of the day, I think once the first step is actually taking that step, and once you do that, then you've got a little bit of an action plan to start working on and getting through. And the more and more you work towards that, and the more and more you think about it, the more comfortable you become with it.
So just out of curiosity's sake, have you had a client of yours at some point in time who's, called you up out of the blue and just said, hey, I just want to let you know that you guys are, really, this has really helped. Like, this has rocked it out for us. We know that this made a difference and we're breathing easier from it. And because on the flip side, as I was talking about people's nervousness or maybe uncertainty where to go, it would be very appealing and alluring to know that you've got some people that say this made all the difference for us.
Yeah. Actually, today we had
Okay.
we talked to a client, and she just had a couple of questions about an insurance product that she has, and it's paying her an income stream for the rest of her life. And she, at the end of the call, she pretty much said, "Man, I am so glad that I met you guys years ago." She's actually making more money now in retirement than she was back when she was working, and so it's a beautiful little situation. And she would ask the question, she'd be like, is this right? Am I actually making more now than I was when I was working? And it is. And she just doesn't believe it. And it's such a little positive thing. And when somebody says, I'm so glad I met you 10 years ago, I think it's where it's at, that's just, it feels good and lets you know that you're doing things right. But yeah, we get that from time to time. I mean, last year, 2020 in particular, was a very difficult year in the markets, and we made some corrective maneuvers to protect our clients' assets, and so we got plenty of feedback as far as how we handled things there. So it's always nice to hear. Sometimes as financial advisors, we just don't get that feedback, but we get a lot of negative feedback sometimes on the tougher years where it is easier just to say, what are you guys doing? So again, the positive is also very nice.
So we were talking with Murs Tariq, and I love the fact that, my question was just happened to be from somebody today that gave you, one of those, hey, thumbs up, we're doing great. That sounds amazing to have a strategy that could allow you to earn as much or more than you did in your working years. And I think that seems very like that. I wouldn't have even thought that would be possible. Now, however, as I'm meeting with more guests this month, I'm seeing different opportunities for wealth management over time that I never really contemplated. So, how come more people don't know about all these opportunities for them? Is it just because most people don't sit down and have good conversations with a company like yours?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I would say there's just so much out there. You get on Google and you search, I don't know, how to retire comfortably, and thousands, millions of different articles come up. And if you're not in this world, if you're not in the financial world and you don't do it every day like I do, it's way too overwhelming to try to figure out on your own. Um, and you're working, right? You may be a pharmaceutical executive, or you may be, a doctor, lawyer, whatever. You're working and you're putting in your hours there. And it's very hard to say, well, I'm going to now, on top of my job, on top of my family, I'm going to now become an expert at all these different things that can help me with my retirement plan. So we're big advocates for reaching out to any financial professional just because we do this for a living and we know what's out there.
Yeah. So all month long, I've asked all my experts to, give us some top tips, things that we can do right now that will help us either prepare for that or, make some decisions right now that will help us be better prepared in the future. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got three really good ones that for anyone that's close to retirement or in that realm, I think, having a retirement income plan is just so important. And we like to see that thing written down, something that is documented. And there's a few reasons why. The way that we build our retirement income plans, we're saying, okay, Michael, you're right here in your 50s, and here's what you've got. And your goal is to say maybe retire at 60, 65, whatever it is. How do we get to that point, and then how does it look after the fact? And so, there's things we have to think about there. How much are we saving until we get there? All right, what about when we do get there? What are the income streams that are going to click on, like Social Security? Is there a pension involved? What are the assets that are going to be funding our lifestyle? And then the biggest thing that we end up getting out of this is we essentially we build a spending plan. So, what type of lifestyle are we going to live in retirement? We really need to be thinking about that early on, just because we see it all the time that I don't know how much I spend. A lot of people don't realize how much they spend. But when it's coming down to something like a science of retirement, we really have to hone in on that. So having a retirement income plan that is written is good for that, because it makes you take the steps to actually think through all the different things you need to be thinking through. And then also it's a nice way you have something to look back on and to say, okay, we did this 5 years ago. Here's where it kind of says we should be now. Are we tracking well? So that's one. A big one is having an investment strategy that fits your comfort level. So a lot of times people they have access to a 401k. They don't really know how they're invested. They just do it because they've been told to do it, and it's making money and it's growing. Well, you start to change a little bit as you grow older and get closer to retirement. Your risk tolerance typically goes down a little bit because this is what I've got and I need to make sure it stays there. So having an investment strategy that lines up with that 60-year-old mentality versus the 30-year-old when you got your first job, or the 20-year-old, huge difference there, right? And then I think what you're working on is spot on estate plan in order. So your wills, power of attorneys, if a trust needs to be in play, and then very importantly, making sure your beneficiary forms are all up to date. So all the different various accounts that you accumulate over your working years, make sure there is a beneficiary attached to it, and make sure that it is the beneficiary that you want. So many times we see that, kids have been born and they've never been added, or grandkids have been born and they've never been added, or a divorce happened and the ex-spouse is still the beneficiary, right? That the beneficiary form is stronger than the will. So you may say, I've got to lay down my will. Well, that doesn't matter. So that's really my top three.
Yeah. Wow. That would be terrifying. Yeah. You don't want to find out that the ex is going to get stuff. And that would not be good.
Yeah. So it's something big to be thinking about.
Absolutely. I think it's fantastic advice. And I know it's one of those things, to your point, that even like when you're talking about the retirement income plan, make sure it's written. It can't just be can't be like, hey, well, yeah, we got a plan, we're just going to make it work.
Right.
Because part of that plan is writing down, evaluating, measuring it against it, seeing if you have to adapt. Because if you started at 50 and you reevaluate it, or you relook at it every couple years, you're also going to not only see if you're on track or not, but you're also going to be able to have great discussions about, well, what was important to us at 50 versus what's important to us at 55 or 60. And those things can easily change in that time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Again.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And so we're going to have all of your contact information on our show notes, but just in case somebody is listening right now and they're like, I need to talk to these people right now because I need peace of mind for my wealth management, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, the best way to find us is our website, which is pomwealth.net. So POM for peace of mind, wealth.net. And then if you're just curious about what we're talking about, we also have our podcast, Secure Your Retirement. You can search my name or my partner, Radon Stansel, and we come up there and we talk about various retirement planning topics.
Excellent. So before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom or pearls of advice for my listeners and viewers?
I would say, I think the best thing that anyone can do is just take an active interest, whether or not you're interested, try to take an active interest in your financial future. Pay attention to the different accounts you have, because at the end of the day, you've been working so hard for 20, 30, 40 years to accumulate this wealth. And you want to make sure that you can actually get to a point where you enjoy it in retirement. So I would say take an active interest, set some goals of learning about what a 401k is, the different types of accounts, income plans, different little ideas around that. Just maybe a couple of things a year that you pick up, and eventually you start to learn this stuff. And then you do sit down with that financial advisor, and you're not just going with what they say. You actually have things to talk to them about and talk to them with. We love it when someone walks in and they have a good grasp on what they have, because then you can have really good conversations about how to structure a plan. So I would say take interest in what you've got, because you work so hard for it.
I love it. Excellent advice, Murs. Thank you so much for being our guest today. You have shared some absolutely invaluable information, and I know my listeners are going to appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Good.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Shock Your Potential podcast. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com, including details on Michael's 2 best-selling books. Tell me more, how to ask the right questions and get the most out of your employees, and sales mixology, why the most potent sales and customer experiences follow a recipe for success. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and like us today.